Intermediate-pod or pod?
It has to be in the order of Hemiptera.
Has to be in order of what?
Hemiptera, H-E-M-I-P-T-E-R.
Okay.
Anything else is not a bug. Sorry. Let me go down here because I don't want to start all the way back there. Was I here? I went through this already with you, right?
Yes.
And I even gave you one of these questions. So I guess I better start there. Y'all remember this idea of Uniramia that suggested that insects and myriapods went together because of unbranched appendages, spiracles and trachea, single pair of antennae, right? That idea has been debunked, and we now think that insects are actually part of crustaceans, so that's the way that I'm doing it. And then I gave you this question, so let's give you this question, which there you're going to see the answer to. Get it right. Did you all see the answer?
No.
Last up there. Okay, so what about it? Horseshoe crabs have what? Mandibles, book lungs, chelicerae, or 3 pairs of walking legs? What do horseshoe crabs have? And horseshoe crabs, of course, are not crabs. It's little things like that. I think you all still remember that strawberries are not berries and blackberries are not berries. Y'all remember that? I'm not sure you remember why. You remember that they're not? Because the red part of a strawberry, remember, is actually a receptacle. It's not a matured ovary, which is the definition of a fruit. Fruits are those little things on the outside that are actually each derived from a separate pistil inside the flower. Y'all remember that? Okay. So it'd be nice if you remembered horseshoe crabs aren't crabs, too. And maybe why. Well, why are they not crabs? Crabs are crustaceans, right? Tetrapods. And horseshoe crabs are not. Okay, we're good? Did everybody answer? Well, other than Andy here.
It's like the 6th time we did. Thank you. Well, there it is.
Is that everybody? Okay, so horseshoe crabs are chelicerates, right? Chelicerates, the first pair of appendages are chelicerae. They never have mandibles. There's no chelicerates that have mandibles at all, so that's wrong. How come book lungs is wrong? They have a book gill, right, which hopefully you all saw. Did you see on those little horseshoe crabs, since they wouldn't eat, they're kind of worthless for that, but did you see the little book gill flapping? It looks like little pages in a book flipping. It's very distinctive, and you only find that within chelicerates, but they don't really have a book lung. It's a book gill because it facilitates gas exchange between blood and water, not blood and water. But they do have chelicerae, right, just like all chelicerates. They don't have 3 pairs of walking legs. They have either 4 or 5, depending on how you count them, but not 3. Okay, so which of these groups would be paraphyletic as historically defined? Don't know what that means? I've had questions like this before that seem obvious to me that bother some of you. So myriapods, chelicerates, arthropods, or crustaceans. I'll give you a hint. One of those words I'm not really using, right? But the other 3 I am. So the one that I'm not using is the one that probably is not going to be monophyletic as it's historically defined, right? Can you all pick up which one of those words I haven't assigned a formal taxonomic rank to? I'm not calling it either a phylum or a subphylum. Although unfortunately in the lab manual it still exists that way, but I'm going to fix that. Okay, are we all there now? I think we're 14 last time. There we go. Okay, so this name I'm not really using, right? I'm replacing it with this name pancrustacean to indicate that it includes insects. Historically, if I said crustacean, you wouldn't say ant, right? You would have said shrimp or lobster or something like that, right? Because crustaceans, as they were historically delimited, would not have included arthropods, would not have included insects. That's a relatively recent idea. But myriapods, chelicerates, and arthropods have all been historically used more or less the way that we're using them. Okay, so here we go. We're looking at insects, right? So I think think I said on one of those other slides, didn't I say on those other slides already, that an insect has 3 basic body segments, right? A head, a thorax, and an abdomen. 2 pairs of wings and 3 pairs of walking legs that are attached to the thorax. Single pair of antennae. And then, of course, there's some other just sort of general features that we associate with arthropods and most invertebrate animals. This idea of like a dorsal blood vessel, ventral nerve cords. Obviously, they have a one-way digestive tract. Yeah, they have these specialized excretory organs, Malpighian tubules. And then, of course, the respiratory organs for insects are similar to those for myriapods, which would be these spiracles, trachea, and little air sacs, right? They don't have poke gills or poke lungs or anything like that. Yeah. So what we're going to do now is blaze through the insect orders, but you already saw the 7 insect orders that I kind of expect you to know, and you realize if you did the part in the lab manual, that page that has the table, that the way that we sort of think about these insect orders are in terms of life history, mouth parts, and wings. In fact, most of the insect order wing names, most of the insect order names have something to do with their wing in the name itself. So we kind of mentioned this idea of a holometabolous and hemimetabolous life history. Obviously, all of these have an animal life history, you realize, right? In the sense that they're diploid all the time. There's only one adult. Meiosis makes gametes. Those are the only haploid cells in the life history, right? So they all have an animal life history. But what we're focused on now is whether or not the insect goes through a complete metamorphosis as it develops. So if it doesn't, if it has more or less direct development, or what's sometimes called an incomplete metamorphosis, we say that it has a hemimetabolous life history. So if you look at something like a grasshopper, here's a baby grasshopper, here's an adult grasshopper, you notice they look basically the same. These guys don't have wings, right, but otherwise they look very similar. We call it baby grasshopper. Usually it's not even really referred to as a larva. Instead we say that it's a nymph. It's the name of a juvenile when it doesn't go through a complete metamorphosis. If you look at something like a butterfly, on the other hand, a butterfly starts out life as a caterpillar, which is the larval form of the butterfly, and it goes through a complete metamorphosis, an entire body change as it transitions from being a juvenile to an adult. And so something that has a complete metamorphosis, we say, has a holometabolous life history. And you'll see, for a particular insect order, like orthopterans, we can say are hemimetabolous, lepidopterans are holometabolous. Right? As far as mouth parts are concerned, we already talked about mandibles. So things like a grasshopper would have mandibles, little jaws, basically, that chew through vegetation. Baby butterflies, caterpillars, also have mandibles, right, that they use to chew through vegetation. But if you look at adult lepidopterans, they tend to have these long proboscis. It's like a coiled straw that they can uncoil and suck nectar, right? In some of them, like mosquitoes, which are different, you can find these piercing proboscis structures that like suck blood. In the hemipterans, they have a proboscis that's designed for piercing and sucking plant juices. In things like flies, you can have these sort of sponge-like mouth parts that lap up different things that they feed on. So this idea of mouth parts is variable, but somewhat conserved across across a particular order, such that you can talk about the types of mouth parts that you find in a particular insect order. Okay, so here we go with the orders. So Odonata, these are going to be who? Dragonflies and damselflies, right? Notice they have wings that don't fold, that are fixed. And the name Odonata refers to the fact that they have a mandible that's toothed. These guys are predatory. Adult dragonflies and damselflies feed on other insects. They can catch mosquitoes and things like that. This is a baby dragonfly. When it's aquatic, instead of calling it a nymph, we tend to call it a naiad. These are also predatory. They can catch little fish and stuff. They're very active predators. Notice that if you look at this naiad, it very much looks like an adult dragonfly, right? Except that it doesn't have wings. So this is considered what kind of a life history? Hemimetabolous. So hemimetabolous, toothed mandibles, non-folding wings. Yeah? Odonata. This is Orthoptera. So when you see PTR, what does that mean? Huh? Means wing, right? So like what's this? It's like a flying dinosaur, right? They're a group of reptiles that learned how to fly. Ptero means wing, dactyl means fingers. They have winged fingers. That's what their name means. So Pter means wing. So these guys are Orthoptera. So that means something wings. What does ortho mean? Like an orthodontist does what to your teeth? Straightens them, right? That's what orthodontist means, teeth straightener, right? These are straight wings, right? And it includes things like crickets, grasshoppers, locusts. This is a little baby grasshopper. What's that called? A nymph, right? So what type of life history would these guys have? Hemimetabolous life history. They have mandibles that they use to chew through vegetation. And they have these straight wings, right? Sort of a slightly thickened pair and then a more membranous pair underneath. Hemiptera means what? Half wings. These are also called what?
Bugs.
Bugs, yeah. Okay, the definition of bug is that you're hemipteran. So the word bug is not supposed to be used really outside of this group. Anything in this particular insect order can be called a bug. If you're outside of this insect order, you're not technically a bug. So the half-wing part of their name refers to the fact that the outer pair of wings are sclerotized, but typically only halfway down. So things like leafhoppers, cicadas, aphids. There's a baby aphid. So what type of life history do these have? They also have a hemimetabolous life history, right? Those are nymphs. These are the ones that have mouth parts that are designed for piercing and sucking plant juices, typically. So half sclerotized outer pair of wings, piercing and sucking plant juices, hemimetabolous life history. Coleoptera, what does this mean? These are the shield wings or the sheath wings, right? Their outer pair of wings are fully sclerotized. What's the common name for this group? It also starts with a B. Beetles, right? So these are beetles. So notice really these, we shouldn't say lady bugs, you should really say lady beetles, and then that's okay, because these are coleopterans, right? And what are these over here? These are baby beetles. These particular baby beetles have a common name. Anybody know what they are?
Worms?
What kind of worms?
Bloodworms?
Usually mealworms.
No.
Here's part of the problem with, I tell you, when you say bloodworms, actually, the thing that they sell in the pet store here that they call bloodworms are those tuberflex worms that I brought in. In California, if you said bloodworms, you'd be talking about chironomid larvae, which are midge larvae. They're basically baby insects. These, I would call these mealworms. There might be somebody around here who calls them bloodworms, but I would call these mealworms. Can you all see how the word worm doesn't mean anything? Now we're talking about insect larvae here. We're using the word worm. Obviously, this has nothing to do with annelids or platyhelminths or nematodes or any of the other things that we call worms. And these, since this is what they look like when they get older, right? What kind of a life history do we have here now? This is holometabolous, right? I mean, this obviously looks absolutely nothing like that, right? It goes through a complete metamorphosis. So beetles go through a complete metamorphosis. They're the first order so far that does. They have completely sclerified outer wings, and most of these, I think, tend to have mandibles. Yeah, certainly the ones I think there that I have do. So mandibles are common across a lot of these. Okay, this is Lepidoptera, or Lepidoptera is the way you say it, not Lepidoptera. Lepidoptera. Lepidoptera, right? So lepidopterans would include things like butterflies and moths, obviously. What does lepido mean? Scale. Scale, right? So these are the scale wings. Were you guys able to see this? I didn't do it on Tuesday night, and then I remembered to do it. I took one of those little butterflies out of the case and put it on a dissecting scope. They have little scales all over their wings that look like little fish scales. You've got to remind me, the Tuesday night group, if I forget, remind me next week, although there's going to be 1,000 things in the lab next week, but remind me and I'll pull one of those butterflies out and put it on a dissecting scope. I really want you to see it. I think a lot of people kind of don't really think that they have scales, or they don't really look like scales. It really looks like scales, right? Some of you saw it, didn't you, yesterday, if you were in lab yesterday? No? But they look just like little fish scales or little snake scales all over the wing. They're very, very tiny, but they have these scales. And they come off in that dust. All that dust that comes off when you pull them off, those are the scales coming off the wing. These guys obviously have what kind of life history? Holometabolism, right? They go through a complete metamorphosis. And as I mentioned before, as juveniles, they typically have mandibles, but as adults, they have these proboscis that coil, right? Okay. Hymenoptera means what? Membrane wings, right? And these are going to be bees, wasps, and ants, right? This is a baby bee. Isn't he cute? His little eyes, little antennae. So these go through a holometabolous life history, right? They have a complete metamorphosis. These I looked up because I couldn't remember the mouth parts. And in the case of ants, they have mandibles. But in the case of bees, well, at least bees, they actually have mandibles that they can chew with, but they also have a little proboscis and a little labium and parts that they can suck with, so that they're able to take up nectar and stuff. So it's kind of a combination of mouth parts that they have. And of course, their wings are very membranous. You don't have sclerification at all of the wings. Okay, Diptera, what does that mean? Two wings, right? Notice all these insects have had two pairs, or 4 wings, right? 4 wings is the normal number for insects to have. And in actuality, these guys all have 4 wings too. It's just that the second pair of wings are highly modified and they're really tiny. So it looks like he only has 2 pairs. This is going to be things like flies, fruit flies, mosquitoes, right? So if you look at them, it looks like they only have 2 wings, but there's actually a very tiny pair of wings. I don't know if you see them in any of these pictures. I got to give you a picture of one so you can see it. But they're called halteres. And they're little gyroscopic organs that it uses to maneuver as it flies. But so they do really have 2 pairs of wings, not just 2 wings, but like I said, the second pair are very small. This is a baby mosquito. These are baby flies. We call baby flies. Maggots, right? Obviously these guys have what kind of a life history? Holometabolous, right? It's a holometabolous. It doesn't look like a fly, does it? I mean, it goes through a complete metamorphosis as it develops. And as far as mouth parts, the flies again have like those little sponge-type mouth parts that they can use to suck things up. And mosquitoes, of course, have a proboscis that they suck blood with.
Do mosquitoes serve any purpose on this earth?
Well, presumably every species fills a purpose on this earth.
Really? But does it really?
Well, I mean, it's, yeah. It might not, yeah, right,
Oh,
right.
okay.
It serves an ecological function. It moves definitely there's certain parasites that are completely dependent on a mosquito, so from the parasite's point of view, it serves a very important function. If you're asking, does a mosquito serve a positive function for people specifically, probably not. Probably not. But that doesn't, just because something's not important to people doesn't mean it's not important in some other way, in a broader sense. Okay, so we're ready? So the insect order Hemiptera, you all know who that is, right? Who are those? The true bugs, right? Does it include bees and wasps? Do they have mouth parts designed for piercing and sucking plant juices? Do they have a whole metabolite life history? Or do you think it's all of those things? Like that bees and wasps are in there, and they also have these kind of mouth parts, and they also have a whole metabolite life history.
See?
Okay, is that everybody?
No, that's not me. Hold on.
Okay, is that everybody? Okay, so it's just bee, right? Bees and wasps are hymenopterans, not hemipterans, right? And hemipterans have a hemimetabolous life history. Okay, so how about the largest number of species of any of the insect orders would be found in which one? Odonata, the Coleoptera, the Hymenoptera, or the Lepidoptera? Which one would have the largest number of species? I didn't say this just now, but I've said it several times, I think, leading up to this, right? Remember I was talking last time about names and being able to name an animal that belongs to it, right? So if I say Odonata, is there a picture in your head? Really?
Dragonfly?
Like a dragonfly. If I say Coleoptera, is there a picture in your head?
Beetle?
Like a lady beetle or something, right? How about if I say Hymenoptera, is there a picture in your head? A bee or a wasp or an ant or something. And a Lepidoptera, there's a picture in your head? Of a butterfly or a moth, right? Okay, so everybody get an answer? Okay, let's see. I think that's everybody. So Coleoptera, right? Beetles. I think in Campbell it says like 350,000 beetles or something. That's stunning, right? There's only like 1.5 million species of everything, right? So to think that, over a fifth of them are just beetles.
What did you say about nematodes? Did you say
So nematodes, if you're going to talk about how many animals,
animals,
like how many
okay.
actual individuals counting them, then
Okay.
you're looking at about 80% of all animals being nematodes,
Okay.
but not species.
There it is.
Okay, so maggots are what? Lepidopterans, coleopterans, dipterans, or something else?
Wait. So,
Okay, are we there now? Change.
yeah, okay, there we go.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe flies, right? Flies are in the order Diptera. Okay, now we've got the rest of the pancrustacea, the things that we would have historically called crustaceans. So here's a lobster. You all kind of dissected one of these, right? So these guys all have two pairs of antennae that are in front of the mouth, right? And then they have typically mandibles, so not all crustaceans do. In the case of these guys, they have mandibles. They have 5 pairs of walking legs. These are decapods, but you'll see that's only one group of crustaceans. Really not a whole lot of characters that crustaceans share, except for this idea that they all have 2 pairs of antennae. I'm not sure there's too much else you can say that's really universal across crustaceans. So hopefully you at least know the body plan for this type of a crustacean, a decapod, because we dissected one of these. It's the only one I'd expect you to know in detail. So this is the phylum Arthropoda, the subphylum Pancrustacea. Go ahead and write a pan up in front of that. And then this is going to be the class Brachiopoda. So there were 2 genera that you're supposed to know in the class Brachiopoda. We had both these live and lab. This is brine shrimp. This is Artemia, right? It's in the order Anopsica. And this is a Cladoceran, which is Daphnia, right? So Artemia and Daphnia would be 2 good ones for you to know. And you can see the 2 pairs of antennae. This one has a simple eye, a simple median eye that's the naupliar eye, because the juvenile form, the nauplius larva, has that simple eye. You'll notice as adults they have the 2 compound eyes in addition to the naupliar eye. This is a female, obviously it's carrying all those eggs. And in the case of Daphnia, Daphnia has a single eye as an adult, but it's a compound eye. You can actually see these multiple lenses that are on this single eye that it has. And if you saw Daphnia, you could, when it was up there, you could see it moving its little eye around and trying to focus on you or whatever was looking at it, right? So Artemia and Daphnia are examples of brachiopods. Then if we have phylum Arthropoda, subphylum Pancrustacea class Maxillopoda, right? This is the second of the four. Actually, I guess the third of the four because insects is one. So we had insects, brachiopods, and Maxillopoda. This includes two groups, the copepods. This is Cyclops. He gets his name from the fact that he has this single eye. We're going to say it's a simple eye. It actually has three lenses on it, but it's typically considered to be a simple eye. And here it looks like he's only got one pair of antennae, but you notice if you see him just right, he's got two. That's really sort of the one thing that's, like I said, that I think unites all crustaceans. These are females with these huge A6 on the back, and you see they have this cute little forked tail called a furca. Here's one in profile view. There were live ones of these, although they were hard to catch. There were also prepared slides up there of them. So copepods would be one example of a Maxillopoda. The other example is a barnacle. Barnacles are in the barnacles. Barnacles are in the order Cirripedia, right, within the class Maxillopoda. So these are the closest relatives of Cyclops, the closest relative of copepods, right? Here's a Nauplia larva. There you see the single median eye, right? They go through a couple different larval stages that are swimming larvae, right, that are out swimming around. So a Nauplius, this is kind of like what a baby brine shrimp looks like too if you looked at them. A citrus larva, and eventually at some point they settle down. Here's a gooseneck barnacle, and there's some other kind of a barnacle. You'll notice that they have these little feet that are called Cirripedia. That's where this name comes from. And basically they sit inside their little shell and they come out. It's like a little shrimp in a shell that comes out and basically filters little particles out of the water using its feet. You'll see these at Moat, right? If you've never watched a barnacle come out and feed. Have you all watched that before? They come out and their little feet, they feed, but it looks like a little shrimp in a shell. And, yeah. Remember, this is the one group of arthropods where you find hermaphroditic members. There's a large number of these guys that are hermaphroditic, and yet they have internal fertilization. They don't shed gametes in the water, so that's how they're touted as having these, compared to their body size, these really huge penises so that they can reach one to the other, right? Because they're sessile, they're attached to wherever they are, and so they have to really stretch and get over to where somebody else is in order to be able to have it. So.
Do you know offhand what a sea squirt would be?
A sea squirt's a tunica. We're going to get to those in a minute. Yeah. That's actually in the same phylum with us. It's a cordic. Okay. So, are you getting all this? Phylum Arthropoda, right? Then we're in the subphylum Pancrustacea. We had insects, right? Which had those 7 orders. Then we had what? Brachiopods, which are basically what? Brine shrimp and Daphnia. And then we had what? Maxillopoda, which are going to be what? Copepods and the barnacles. And now we're going to have Malacostraca, which is going to have 2 groups, the decapods and the isopods. Decapods are the ones you should know really well because these are what you think of when you think of a crustacean, right? You think of a Malacostracan decapod. You think of a shrimp or a lobster or a crab, right? This is where crabs go, right? We're a million miles away from horseshoe crabs. Horseshoe crabs are related to spiders and scorpions and things like that. These guys are related to lobster. They're related to shrimp, right? Notice this cute little harlequin shrimp here. There's some other kind of a peppermint shrimp or something. Horseshoe, I almost said it. Hermit crabs are crabs, right? Not horseshoe crabs, but hermit crabs are crabs. And notice when you learned the names of the appendages, right? When you had these 2 pairs of antennae, mandibles, 2 pairs of maxilla, 3 pairs of maxillipeds, 5 pairs of walking legs, typically with the chelae or the claws as the first pair of walking legs, and the swimmerets, the uropods, the telson. When you learned all of that, you're not learning it just from craziness. You now know it for a crab or for a shrimp. They're exactly the same across all of these different decapods, so you really know them for all of these crustaceans that you know really well. If you took him, granted he's dorsoventrally flattened, but if you started pulling his walking legs off, you'd see he has 5 pairs of walking legs, the first pair of the chelae, and then if you start pulling in here, guess what you're going to find? 3 pairs of maxillipeds, right? 2 pairs of maxillae, a pair of mandibles. He's got 2 pairs of antennae. They're oddly shaped. Try it. Grab a crab and convince yourself that it has that same basic appendage structure that you have in a lobster or crayfish or a shrimp or anything else. And his, notice, I mean, here are his walking legs, right? And these up here start to become his little maxillipeds. And notice he's got all this, it's all kind of crammed together in here, but if you started pulling this apart, you'd see, I'm lying, actually, what are these? I'm lying. These are swimmerets, right? I was wondering, it looked like there were too many legs there, right? But when you get up to where his 5th walking leg is, and work your way up, you'd see he has that same exact thing of 5 pairs of walking legs, 3 pairs of maxilla, that's 2 pairs of maxilla, mandibles, 2 pairs of antennae in front. It's exactly the same body plan. Okay, so the other group of malacostricans would be isopods. Many of the isopods are aquatic, right? But there are actually terrestrial crustaceans, right? This is a terrestrial crustacean, an isopod, not an insect, right? This is a roly-poly or a pill bug or whatever you call it. Yeah. Okay, so the closest relatives of barnacles would be what? Daphnia, Artemia, Cyclops, or shrimp. If you can get it into the right class, you'll know the answer, right? Do you know what class barnacles are in? Maxillopoda. Okay, so only one of those 4 is a maxillopoda. Figure out which one of the 4 you got. Okay, is there one more? Okay, a little all over the place, right? These are Branchiopoda. This is Malacostrica, right? But Cyclops is a copepod, right? So it's a maxillopoda as well. So which one of these doesn't have compound eyes? It's the same 3 again. With no shrimp. So who doesn't have compound eyes? Or what I probably should say is doesn't have compound eyes as an adult, right? So there's at least a couple answers that could be right if you're talking only about juveniles, but if we're talking about as adults, who doesn't have compound eyes? And we're going to assume 3 lenses is not compound. Okay, one more. Lordy. Little copepod, right? It has 3 lenses, but it's considered a simple eye. Daphne has a compound eye with probably 20 lenses or more, right? And Artemia also has, remember, the 2 big compound eyes. It has a Doppler simple eye, but it has compound eyes as well. This one has what's considered to be a simple eye, right? Do y'all know who those 3 are? Is there a picture in your head? Can you picture Artemia, Daphnia, and Cyclops? So if I showed you a picture of one on the practical, you'd know who it was. How about stone crabs? What class do they belong to? I'll give you a hint. They belong to the same class that every other crab belongs to. Stone crabs are crabs, you realize. Can you see how there's a zillion names here? What I'm afraid is as you're trying to cram names like Maxillopoda, Malacostrica, Isopoda, Decapoda, Cirripedia, Branchiopoda, as you're trying to cram that into your head along with Odonata, Orthoptera, Hemiptera, Diptera, Hymenoptera, what I'm afraid is that you're picking out words like Scythozoa, Anthozoa, Turbellaria, Trematoda, Bivalvia, Pistabranch, Prosabranch. Can you see how there's a zillion names? There's a ton of them. And on the exam, this exam that you're going to be doing in like less than 2 weeks, you realize I'm going to give you 20 of those names. And all you need to do is tell me an animal. a picture in your head. Can you do that? No, on the exam, sorry, I misspoke, on this exam. If I say opistobrink, is there a picture in your head? Have a film there. Like a nudibranch, sea slug? No? How about if I said Hirudinea, is there a picture in your head? Is there a picture? No?
Leech.
A leech, right? All you'd have to do is write leech, and you get a point. Okay, is there one more person on this?
Pictures of polar bear.
There's a zillion names, and you'll see when I start to do chordates, it's gonna get even worse. I'm gonna like double the number of names that you have already. So that's gonna be the challenge, I think, on this thing. Is you gotta somehow be making flashcards or something so that they're not just names. Okay, good, most of you got that. They're malacostric and decapods, right, just like other crabs. Okay, so here we go. Just the last. 2 more sets of PowerPoint slides. I'm gonna try to get to at least a big chunk of the first one.